Hello and welcome to episode 85 of the FPL Hangover podcast, where we raise the bar and lower the tone, all things FPL related. Game week 2 has nearly come to an end. Man City and Wolves are just seeing it through. That should be finished shortly, but we have plenty of other things to talk about this week. Budget strikers have had a bit of a ball this weekend, so much so that even Seamus and I have managed to get in on the action. But all in all, a week to forget. But them's the breaks, kids. And speaking of breaks, he's had his cut and he is hurtling head first towards a busy intersection. There's women and children everywhere. He's screaming, "Get out of the way! Move! Move!" He can only be going in one direction. That is WILDCARD City, and he is my podcast partner in crime. Seamus, how are you getting on, my friend?
I'm okay. As you can see here on the YouTube clip, I'm relaxing on the beach.
Yes.
So I've managed to calm my soul a bit. I've kind of picked up a few points on Sunday and today. So I'm in a bad position in FPL, but I'm not absolutely decimated.
Yeah, you've had a pretty busy week at work, but yeah, as you said, your background would tell a lie. It's all sunshines. How are you feeling now that Game Week 2 is coming to an end? Are you looking forward to Game Week 3, or are you still focusing on 2? Like, what's dragging your attention?
It's a weird one. I am happy to see the back of Game Week 2 because there were so many points on offer. I remember counting by between Saturday and Sunday's games, 39 goals in 8 games. I had a hand in 3 of those. Felt like there was a lot more opportunity to grab some more. If you had Son alone, you would have beaten that. So yeah, there's a lot of high scoring players this weekend. One of those is a player I sold, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel you, Seamus. I'm in the exact same position. We both got stung by our transfers this week. Me a little bit more so. I was one of the unlucky FPL managers who transferred out Son for Bruno Fernandes. Now, there's lots of worse managers, or not worse managers, but managers who were in worse situations than myself, who maybe took hits for that same move, or worse. I've seen a few Mane, Ings and Son -8s floating around. That's gotta really sting. But yeah, you did. You transferred out Mane. He banged a brace. I transferred out Son. We all know what he did, and now we smile and we bear it and we move on, Seamus.
Oh, I thought we wallow for a while.
Not this
No,
season.
move straight on. Moving on.
Moving
Moving
on.
on. What? So just to recap, that was 24 points for Son, 16 for Mane, I believe.
Yeah, that's what it was. 16 for Mane and 24 for Son. 24 is probably the most I've ever suffered from a transfer out. I was only thinking, before we hit record, and yeah, that's probably up there with my biggest ever like losses or hits. For just a single transfer at least, because I don't remember ever transferring out a player who scored 4 goals before. And all in all, it didn't really. I don't know if 5-2 really reflected the entire match. At least it flattered Spurs a little bit, if you ask me. But we can break that down a bit more. Let's get to your team, Seamus. And you scored a massive 48 this week. How are you feeling about that, man?
Yeah, 1 point less than last week. Not very good. Mitrovic saved my bacon. He got me 12 points up front. My 2 other strikers, Werner and Vardy. Vardy did not a whole lot. He played okay, but didn't like he was the OG. I think that Leicester scored. I think it was Peters that was coming straight towards Vardy. Another day he gets that he scores maybe. He assisted the assister for Harvey Barnes' first goal. Only goal I should say. So he was kind of in a good position. I wanted him to shoot that. Captain Aubameyang, no luck with Saint-Maximin. So that's the same old story. He looks like a problem now. He went off injured. My transfer in Mane to Bruno, nothing. No, I was not expecting Palace to beat United. 7 points for Alexander Arnold. Everyone has him. Justin with a nice 7 points as well. And today, probably the highlight of my week. No, the highlight of my week was definitely Mitrovic, actually. But because he's the only one that got double digits for me. But the highlight of my week was second highlight of the week was probably at Target getting 5 points today against Sheffield United for Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Considering he got a yellow card for giving away a penalty, to see them miss said penalty, and who knew Lundstrom was on penalties? I didn't. Yeah, that was a nice 5 pointer. It's still a red arrow. I was the one thing about this week was I was like, at least I'm not going to get a red. I'm starting at 2.6 million or 2.7 million. It's going to be very hard to get a red. Still managed it. So you gotta
Yeah,
laugh.
no, I mean, it was a bit of an unlucky week for Vardy owners, I think. I'm with you there now. Obviously, I'm delighted because I don't have Vardy, and this Burnley match was something I was definitely, it was a behind the couch kind of match for me. And when Leicester score 4 goals, you're expecting Vardy to get some attacking returns. I think, as you mentioned, he was quite unlucky at times not to, but fuck it, Seamus. You can't have everything. You got your Mitrovic. He was one of the many 6 point odd or, just cheap forwards throughout the game week who delivered. You're looking at the likes of Bamford. He got a pretty big haul for Leeds. DCL. I suppose, we can count Calvert-Lewin as a kind of cheap forward, 7.5, isn't he? And
Yeah, it's 7. I think he's just 7.0. He's up to what,
you're
7.2
right,
now?
he's
I think he's gone up and up and up. But yeah, 4 goals in 2 games.
yeah,
No,
hat trick
unreal.
for his.
Scored from a hat trick scored from a combined distance of about 7 yards. One of those kind of Dirk Kuyt hat tricks where he just gets 2 goals within like a yard of the goal line and another one on the 6 yard line.
If
So
you're
yeah, fair play to him. And I really, really wish I had him. And we actually said it last week on the pod. We said, how about James? Are we looking at James? And I don't know where we finished on it, but I was kind of saying I think it looks better for the likes of
When you say
Richarlison
James, are you talking
and
about James
Calvert-Lewin.
Rodriguez? You
Yeah,
can't say James. That's there is far too many reasons to not say James. James, you can even call him Seamus Ella,
J
J
Rod.
Rod. There's lots of things, but James, that's throwing me right off Seamus.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Maybe I'm disappointed with him because I was calling him James all last week. Yeah, James. I go to revert back to James. Yeah, I thought he had a great score. So if he got onto him this week, fair play. We were debating him last week. He looked super sharp, and yeah, I kind of was like, I think he'll do better for the players around him. Now he still got a goal and an assist. He looked really good. He's kind of persuading me. He's got the shot outside the box. His assist came from a corner. But I still think DCL for 7 million, 7.2 is the cheapest of all
Yeah.
of them. Is the guy to
We
go for.
actually have a question from our sister podcast, as they like to be known. Drew writes in and asks, are Everton the real deal, or have they just played Spurs and a 10-man West Bromwich Albion? West Brom were doing okay till the red, and Palace, Brighton and Poole. Next 3 won't be too easy. Would you still invest in Everton right now, or is it chasing points? What are your thoughts on that?
I'd invest in him. I'd invest in him with 2 nice fixtures coming up. Crystal Palace have started really well. They've won their first 2 games, including beating United. I think that'll be a tougher game. And there's definitely a large element of truth to what Drew's saying there. They beat Spurs. Spurs are not terrible. They're not amazing. They may have smashed Southampton. I think this is saying a lot about how poor Southampton were. They played a very high line. It just was exposed by Harry Kane's true ball ability and Son's pace. Just
That's not a
terrible
sentence I
decision.
imagined we'd be saying very often. Harry Kane's true ball ability.
I know, but he turned into prime Trent Alexander-Arnold's, at stages in that game, finding these lovely balls through, and with the high line, they punished them, and that's Southampton's, poor tactics, or Hasenhüttl maybe. Definitely weren't carried out correctly. But yeah, I think they won't get that against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, like to sit and counterattack themselves with fast players like Zaha. I think it'd be tougher. But that's the thing with these games. You can't predict, West Brom were doing well until the red card. As soon as it happened, I actually turned off the game at that point because I was like, this is only gonna go one way now, because West Brom are poor enough. They don't need to be down to 10 men, and their manager sent off. And yeah, so it transpires. They got the goals. Richarlison 3 assists. He's someone who's very interesting. If it wasn't for the fact that Calvert-Lewin is just finishing all his chances and getting into great positions in the box and is looking a lot more effective in the the 6, 18 yard kind of
Yeah,
area.
see, I think
I'd be looking
like
for
you
him.
mentioned, DCL looking more effective and Richardson looking interesting. As far as like I'm concerned, Calvert Lewin is just taking all of the shine from Richarlison in the sense that I know that Richarlison can be dropped back to left wing and can play much deeper, and it's not necessarily the case for DCL. Everything seems to be aimed at him, and Ancelotti doesn't seem to have any intention of replacing him right now, which is the big kind of that's a massive stake for this stage of the season. A 7 point odd 7.1 7.2 million striker playing for an Everton team that have looked pretty reinvigorated regardless of their defensive woes, which I suppose we'll move on to. Attacking wise, they looked all about it this weekend. So I mean, for me, if I'm rating, what Everton assets I want, I'm going DCL number one, just because there's a spot in, the striker positions for a 7.0 striker. And, yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's just there's a lot of value with the cheap strikers. You mentioned Bamford earlier. Mitrovic is doing well. Maupay got another couple of goals and an assist as well. So I think, yeah, I think I'd like to go for cheap strikers. The more expensive ones, Vardy did the business last week. Kane, unreal this week. All the strikers are scoring. I think I would like to. You could go without if you want to go. It's trying to determine what they're going to do next, and I just think whatever about whatever about their next fixture against Crystal Palace, the game after as well is a great one. So I don't think it's too late, and I think you can't say game week 2 is too late. We've missed them because if
It's
he's
game
going to
week
be,
three now,
he's only
James. It's
seven
game
point
week three.
two.
Come on.
Yeah, but if we've only missed 2 game weeks, then it's not too late. There's like 38 game weeks. I know you don't want it for 38 game weeks, but like, can we have a look at what his fixtures are like
Yeah,
coming up?
they've Crystal
They're
Palace away, Brighton at home, and then they have that toughie against Liverpool, an away match against Southampton, and a home match against an away match against Newcastle. I don't know. I'm not too worried about Everton's fixtures in terms of like based on the form they've showed the last two. I fancy them
yeah.
to win 4 out of those 5 matches. Um,
Yeah, so do I. Liverpool is the tough one, but it's a derby, so you never know what way it's gonna go in that one. I think I would go. I'm
what do
thinking
you think about
a
Digne,
hit.
Seamus? Like,
I like him.
yeah, very
Yeah,
unlucky. Sorry,
they
but very unlucky not to return this weekend. He's, you know, he's come out of it with what, a point when he hit the bar with a free kick and delivered in numerous crosses. So like for his managers, they'll be very disappointed, but I think he won't slow down people looking to invest in Everton defense. Do you get me? I think they'll still look at, and anyone that's watched that match will realize the potential he has as an FPL player this year.
Yeah, and I like Coleman too. He's only 5 million. I was close to putting him in the starting 11 this season at one stage until people started talking about John Joe Kenny probably going to get game time, and that scared me off him, and that hasn't transpired. And Coleman's looked very good, so I think Coleman will continue to start, and John Joe Kenny will only get like very few minutes. But Dean is the guy, Dina, whatever you want to call him, is the guy to go for. His set pieces are amazing. You saw his assist in the first game; he got 12 points for that by putting it across for Calvert Lewin. Calvert Lewin's really good in the air, so he's got target men to aim for. And I think as well, like the goal that Keane got this week, he put that cross in for Richarlison, who nearly scored, and it was only the rebound. So he's still putting in these really threatening balls. They look like they're going to be very dangerous from set pieces. And yeah, I think Dean is a great player. If it wasn't for the fact that the one player I was going to get for him, get him for would have been Matt Doherty, and Matt Doherty is playing Newcastle this week. I think I'd be considering
Yeah,
that.
no, I get you. And in yeah, now I'm stumbling over his name because if you call him James, but James Rodriguez, like pretty much a massive talking point last week, massive talking point since he signed for Everton, and didn't kind of fail to deliver for anyone that jumped on that boat, kind of, relatively early,
Immediately
immediately
rewarded.
rewarded.
Yeah, immediately. Yeah. Um, I see those goals from distance are going to be, you're not going to score them every week, so Will he keep it up? I think for his price, he's worth the chase. I think he's worth chasing those points for a few games and see how he goes. But I don't know. I'm not going to go chasing all in on Everton now. Maybe I should. I was considering it last week. Wanted to see. I'm pretty certain Calvert-Lewin's going to play every game he can now. At the start, I was small bit worried that maybe Richarlison will get the odd game up front by himself with players either side of him. But no, yeah, any three of them, any of the three forwards, either of the two fullbacks, those would be good. Even the Core could be good, but he has to be the poorest of those four forward players at the moment. They're all just on
No,
fire.
I completely agree. Now, someone that we shared an interest in this weekend was Bruno Fernandes. You already touched on how poor United's performance was, but both of us sacrificing pretty big returns for a, quite like it's quite a scary performance from an FPL manager's kind of point of view in the sense that now and not just an FPL manager, like a Man United fan. Now I'm looking at Man United's next fixtures and I'm kind of thinking to myself, oh, this is maybe not the direction. Maybe this takes them a bit longer to warm up, which I suppose maybe it was a bit naive in thinking anything else, but pretty limp dicked performance against Crystal Palace, and you couldn't have been too happy with those returns.
Yeah, awful. I watched. I only got to saw the first half hour of that game before we had a match ourselves on Saturday. So I went basically straight from finishing work and to playing a match. So I got to see that 30 minutes and nothing happened in it. There was nothing of note apart from Crystal Palace
Yeah.
scoring. And then I just was hoping when I got home that, United would have stepped it up. But no, they had lost 3-1. Fairly miserable. And watching the rest of the match highlights, there was nothing to suggest United were anyway good. By all means, Bruno's average position was very, very deep. Um, yeah, I'm worried, and it just goes to show they don't have the depth past their starting 11. Just a simple case of not playing Wan-Bissaka and not playing Greenwood made a huge difference to the team. Both centre backs were shit, culpable for different mistakes at various times. Shaw was pretty useless. Yeah, I don't know what you can do. De Gea saved the penalty, but then had to retake it. I don't think anyone was expecting Zaha to come out of the first two games with three
No,
goals.
I definitely wasn't. And we did mention him in our kind of bonus episode last week, missed opportunities. We were talking about how all of a sudden, he is playing in the position that he had his most successful season in, and he's back to being classified as a midfielder. So,
And to add into that, just because I think it helps as well, for the first time in however many seasons, Milijevic is not playing. So now it turns out their penalty striker is probably Zaha. Well, Ayew took the first one, missed it, and then Zaha took it. So does that mean he's likely to be on the next penalty
I think
again?
that's going to be kind of a big question mark, whether or not he is on the next one. Because, I mean, Hodgson mentioned after the game that he didn't want to give the second penalty to Ayew, because he had missed the first. Does that mean that he's not going to want to give any of the other penalties to Ayew?
Maybe. A lot of teams have a policy that, you're on penalties until you
Yeah.
miss one. As soon as you miss one, then you have to go back it's rotated back around to the next guy, and it's his chance to lose the spot. So could be something like that. If I thought Zaha was on penalties, I would be a lot more interested. I have to say that. But then again, Palace got very little penalties last year, but traditionally they get lots of them. Season before that, key cornerstone of FPL was Zaha wins a penalty, Milijevic sticks it. So Zaha, if he knows he's taking the penalties, might be trying to win a small bit more. If he's going to be at Crystal Palace, that's the caveat, of course. We said last week maybe wait until the transfer window closes before getting him in, but he might miss all these points.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like, Crystal Palace's fixtures, Everton this week, that'll be tough enough. And then Chelsea away, that'll also be kind of a tough one. So I feel like I can sit on Everton a little bit more than I can on the likes of, or not on Everton, but on Crystal Palace a little bit longer. But not so much on. I mean, I was gonna save this for later on, but while we're here, the Man City Wolves match. I think we've talked about Wolves last week. West Ham, Fulham, Leeds, Newcastle, Crystal Palace in the next 5. that's kind of the team I'm aiming towards, and I think I'm probably going to target them ahead of Everton. Just kind of going back to Drew's question, it's I think I'll be targeting Wolves a little bit ahead of Everton. Maybe it's because I do feel like I've missed the points a little bit, but they also have some smashing fixtures coming up. And what's the current score in that City match, James? And don't lie and tell me you don't know. I know it's
I literally, as soon as you started talking about it, I said, I better switch over and check the score. It's now 2-1 to Man City. So it's in injury time. There's only 2 minutes left. But Jimenez has got a goal. Podence has got an assist. Podence, who's looked lively in this first half as well. Same prices, same maximum. So that's something I'm thinking of next week. But yeah, Jimenez, 2 weeks in a row. Second goal
Did
this
you
season
expect anything
against a
less?
good team. No, I expected exactly 1 goal from Jimenez today. Now, I didn't know what the result would be, but yeah, Man City have looked good today. At least the parts I've seen first half. Looks like Wolves have improved second half. So yeah, I think Jimenez is vying for a place in my team. The problem is, and it's for this reason, I'm glad I went with 3 strikers, 3 playing strikers this season as opposed to 2, because I kind of feels like if I could have 4 strikers now, I may have them. Defense, just no team seems to be able to defend. It all seems to be about goals at the minute. As I said, the first 8 games of this season resulted in how many? 39 goals, so almost 5 goals a game. There's 4 in the 2 games tonight, so what's that? 43 goals in 10
Yeah.
games. That's a lot of goals. It's a high average. So yeah, it looks like clean sheets have died, especially for teams who haven't had a whole summer to
Yeah.
prepare. Looks like maybe the teams who have had were defensively sound last year are kind of doing
Yeah.
okay. Not Sheffield United, because they had a guy John Egan was sent off today. So I think that kind of goes away to saying that. But Aston Villa, who ended the season quite good defensively, kept a clean sheet
But
today.
maybe, as you said, Seamus,
Wolves have started
defenses are
quite good.
dead. Maybe like that seems to be the current narrative at the moment, and you can't blame him. As you said, a shit ton of goals in the last couple of game weeks, and I'm kind of glad for one that I've basically invested zero, like next to nothing in my FPL defense. I don't have that 6 million striker or that 6 million defender like you have in Matt Doherty, which is probably a little bit more irritating that I have to deal with a kind of I don't have that easy option to just drop down to a 4.5 and then collect a cool 1.5 million, which you do. But
Yeah, but you've got to price your third midfielder. You had Son there, who's now
yeah,
Bruno, right?
well, he is, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you've freed up the funds to do that. So yeah, I'm kind of you're kind of saying you're jealous you don't get to drop down to a 4.5 defender, but you already have him. I'm kind of jealous. I kind of thinking, should I get rid of Doherty now with a home game against Newcastle? That looks like a good game. I would like to drop into someone like Lamptey. Lamptey went off injured with a bit of a knock just before he got his clean sheet, which was probably to the frustration of people who played him this week. But he looks unreal.
Yeah.
He looks like the sort of player I need to get on my team. I'm not really even looking at their
No,
fixtures.
I'm pretty happy. I had a Lamptey on the bench this week, but as I mentioned online, super happy to have him in the squad because I do think he looked great. He did come off before the 60-minute mark, which will be a real kick in the nuts for anyone that was playing him this week. For me, it kind of made it a bit more bearable that I'd made the wrong decision. I had played, I put out a poll there this week on whether or not I should bench Lamptey, Dyer, or Shea Adams, and I think it was pretty even. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think like the majority said bench Adams, and I had already kind of decided I was going to bench Lamptey, and because Saint Maximin was playing Brighton, I knew I was playing Saint Maximin. Didn't want two of my teams kind of clashing in regards to Newcastle versus Brighton and Southampton versus Spurs. I was like, no, I'll just fuck it. I'll go. Hopefully, it's if Southampton score, it's Adams, and if they don't, they keep a clean sheet. Or if he doesn't, they keep a clean sheet. And I think I was a bit unlucky in the regards of Adams kind of delivering a 1 point return. That was when you watched the match. Did you watch the match, James?
I saw the highlights. I was out furniture shopping at the time, so didn't. I had alerts set on my phone, and I saw Doherty assist. I went yes, take that. Goal ruled out. Damn. Then Son got a goal. I was like, oh, that's not good. A lot of people sold him this week. And I was like, I think German might have even sold him. Then I saw Son got another goal, then a third,
At
then a
what
fourth,
stage
and I
did
was
you
like, where
check
the
if I had sold him or not?
uh no, I just remember, I think I remember I just remembered that were talking about selling him, and I was like, did I check his team? Did he actually sell him? And it's like, yeah, he definitely sold him. I just remembered. I didn't go back double checking. I was too busy, sitting on poofs and stuff like
What you
that
do in
and
your spare time, Seamus,
couches.
is up to you. But no, Shea Adams, I felt like I was very unlucky to not see any return. A great save
Yeah,
from Lloris in the first half. He also smashed a post.
yeah,
More kind of a bit more profligacy than I would have liked from my 6.0 now 5.9 forward. But Dems are the breaks, as I said at the top of the show, and Southampton have I think a decent fixture against Burnley side that just conceded 4 goals to Leicester at home, or were they at home? I don't remember if they're at home. They probably weren't, but they just conceded 4 goals to Leicester, and I'm gonna keep him this week. Hopefully, I get a bit more luck, but I did feel unlucky. Not so unlucky with the McCarthy 0 point return because as you said, Southampton getting their tactics completely wrong there. I wouldn't say they got them completely wrong. It was that they failed to adapt once the game had changed. Do you get me? Because I mean, at the start of the match, Southampton could have had a goal or two. They could have been, up at halftime.
yeah. They had created chances, and like you said, Adams, he had that one save in particular where I thought he was definitely going to score. So yeah, a bit unlucky in that way, but look, that's why you pay the small bit extra for Ings, I guess, because Ings gets, he got a nice goal, and then he seems to on penalties. That's not something that hasn't been mentioned. It was always Ward-Prowse on penalties, and it appeared that Ings was taking him at the end of last season to get to the Golden Boot, which he didn't quite get to in the end. But Ward-Prowse was on the pitch when he took this one, so it was I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe it was because it was a nothing goal. It was like this their second goal at the end of a 5-2 loss. So maybe that's the only reason why.
I think if I'm
But yeah,
Danny
you
Ings
gotta
and I'm
think.
sitting in a Southampton team, I'm telling whoever that I'm taking the fucking penalty. Like I'm the striker. I just nearly got the Golden Boot last year. Had my most successful, season in the Premier League. I'm taking fucking penalties. And I don't know. It would be a stone cold hearted man to turn down that Danny Ings smile. That cheeky. You saw when I was a bit pissy when he scored the first goal because it's like, oh yeah, typical. Ings gets his goal. There's my clean sheet gone, and Adams has fuck all to do with it. After getting booked for holding Lloris's hand like a moron, it was just
Who did?
Adams. That's how we picked up
Adams
his yellow
did.
card.
Didn't see
Yeah,
that. Didn't even
just
see that.
slowing the keeper down, preventing a bit of a counter attack, but not doing it
Yeah.
intelligently enough to not get fucking booked for it. And he had that cheeky Ings grin, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, maybe like Ings and Jimenez kind of both picking up from where they left off last season. Ings scored. No, he did.
Mhm.
They lost 1-0 last week. He didn't score last week, but he has the 2-2 now, and Jimenez also has 2-2. So maybe there's like no assembly required. You know what your FBL team is based on what it was last year because these guys they don't seem to be slowing down. But new man to the league this season, but one we'll be familiar with from a couple back, as you mentioned already, Seamus. Really pumped our scores up somewhat. Something mighty this week. Like I got 46. You never asked, by the way, but I got 46.
I was yeah.
And yeah, I got.
No, as in like I was going to ask you, like you were telling me through all your team a while ago, and I was like, I have no idea what your actual score is. And I was going to ask you, but we got too caught up in the fantasy part of FPL here, that we got caught up in our talking about players. So 46, okay.
46. I've
And what does that leave you on total?
currently now. I haven't looked at this post City Wolves match, but I've before that I've dropped down to 1.2 mil. So more than doubles my rank this week. An absolute kind of stinker of a week after a somewhat successful game week 1, but. Getting back to the man of the hour, Mitrovic, who really pumped up our teams and delivered a 12-point haul, all 3 bonus points, which I must admit I was very surprised at. And 2 goals, again, he's on penalties. It was the talk of the town last week. Lots of podcasts talking about, the the effective penalty takers and whatnot. And this week, I don't think it's really proved to be any different. Just like Ings, Mitrovic bagging these owners two goals, 12 points. You must have been pretty sweet. Looking at that, Seamus, going forward, does that mean you're not worrying about Ings now, or what's the crack?
Yeah, the problem in my team is probably like Timo Werner.
You think so?
He's got one assist. Yeah, he's got one assist in two games, and one of those games was against Chelsea, and he won a penalty in that one. He would have had a
Against
second
Brighton.
assist had Jorginho. No, in the most recent game against Liverpool, he would have had an assist had Jorginho been able to actually score. I'm not used to seeing him miss penalties, so when Alisson saved that, I was like, oh, surprise, because I thought that was a
That was his
nailed-on
first
assist.
penalty he missed.
But yeah,
Jorginho's.
Jorginho's, yeah, in the Premier League anyway. At least I couldn't tell you, but he had an amazing record in Italy before that. Might be his first miss in like 5 or 6 seasons. Yeah, he has that kind of stuttering kind of technique he takes, and usually sends the keeper the wrong way. But surprised to see him miss one assist so out of the first two games for Werner, and yeah, White, he's shown a lot of promise, and he's been like the bright spark in that Chelsea team. He's looked good, pacey. He's
So
had
what's your
two
issue?
half chances. Yeah, all the other players and forwards in the league are scoring goals. Calvert-Lewin's on 4. All these other players are on 2. He hasn't got one yet. So it's all well and good looking promising.
Yeah.
That's a problem, Aaron. So he's got this week against West Brom. There's no way I'm selling against West Brom, who shipped, what is it now? 8 goals in 2 games?
Yeah, 2-4,
Is that right?
2-4, concede 2-4 goal matches, I think 8, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's did they concede 4 in the first game, was it? Or 3?
Yeah, you're dwelling on it.
Yeah.
What we
Well,
say
either way,
goals,
they conceded
James.
5. But you got to think, is that just because they got a guy sent off against Everton? But yeah, I think Chelsea who haven't looked great. They're one good performance away from it kind of clicking. So I don't think I can get rid of Werner this week. But I want Jimenez. I want, all these players that are scoring goals.
Well, I think
now.
that's the question.
But
Is, I don't agree with you. I don't think Werner is a problem area in my team. I would be more concerned, I suppose, with the likes of, as I mentioned, Shea Adams, Mitrovic. But I completely agree that I do want Jimenez. I just don't know if I probably won't be sacrificing Werner for Jimenez. I'll probably combine the mighty power that is Shea Adams and Alexander Mitrovic and turn him into some kind of Jimenez. How easy that's going to be, I don't know. I guess I'll have to start squeezing pennies here and there. But Werner has got West Brom this week, and then a home match against Chelsea, or against Crystal Palace, and then a home match against Southampton. Toughie against United, Burnley, Sheffield, Newcastle. I mean, as you said, if he had got that, if Jorginho had converted that penalty against Liverpool, and he had all of a sudden had 2 assists in 2 games, looked, very. I'm holding a scissors up, actually. Didn't realize that. I'm on camera now. I can't
Very
be pointing
threatening.
scissors at people. But if he had got that return against Liverpool, and I didn't expect anything from Werner in that game. I was expecting maybe a little bit more in the Brighton match. So if he's coming out with like 12, 13 points over 2 games, I'm pretty happy with that going into the West Brom match. But I suppose it is all about whether or not you want to have your Ings and your Jimenez. I mean, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, just like looking at the forwards who've done things like players like Bamford's got 2 goals and 2 assists now in the last couple of games. Kane got 1 goal, 4 assists there. Calvert-Lewin's got 4 goals already. Vardy had 2 goals in 1 game. Lacazette's on 2 goals. Richarlison's on 3 assists the last game. Mitrovic has got 2 goals. Ings has got 2
everyone
goals.
knows
Wilson
who's
has
got the points. Like, they can look at the website. The issue is, is Werner a problem area in your team?
Well, I would just say in the list of forwards who are playing well, he's like 8th on the list. So
yes,
you're kind of saying, I'm not saying he's a problem area, but like he's kind of like, well, he'd want to start scoring because all these other, because I've gone with Werner, and if anyone else who's gone, cheap strikers, they could have Mitrovic, Maupay, and Bamford. They're Calvert-Lewin, they're rolling at the points. Even if they went premium and they went Kane,
well, I
it's
suppose
just,
that's one player we haven't talked about, like Maupay. I mean, tough match this week against United. Well, we hope it's a fucking tough match against United. We don't know.
Who knows?
But not the worst fixtures after Everton, Crystal Palace, and West Brom. He put Brighton are looking like the team I was kind of hoping for at the start of the season. They're kind of continuing, I think, the form they had towards the end of last season in regards to just looking like a more in tune outfit. Do you know? I think I like what Potter's do. It's Potter. I like what Potter's doing at the moment. And we talked about Lamptey looking phenomenal there against Newcastle, all 57 minutes of it. But I think in general, the bigger picture, Brighton look like a much more cohesive unit than they did at the start of last season, and they offer some great value there. Like, I mean, are you looking? Do you think their fixtures are still that little bit, niche or Akia?
Niche or okay, I'm not sure, but let's have I'll have to have a look at their fixtures. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Lamptey and you mentioned Trossard, or you mentioned Maupay, but Trossard is a player who's struck my fancy a small bit here in the last couple of games. He's looked very good. He's got a goal and assist, 8 points and 6 points these first two games. Yeah, Everton away is pretty tough, you have to say. So United at home, you'd hope that's tough. You'd hope United are going to bounce back a bit. Everton away, yeah, tough one. Crystal Palace away, tough one. They're kind of tough, to be honest. They're not easy. I'm not expecting a lot of goals. There might be a goal or two, maybe. Yeah, I think they're one to watch. I think there's no need to go in them. I don't think that's where I'm going to be trying to find value. They do look better. I think they'll be, based on what I've seen so far, hopefully, I think they'll be safer, more kind of closer to kind of 13 to 14 position. Maybe it's not something they're in a relegation battle to the end of the season. So yeah, I think there'll be times during the year to kind of go in on those players, but I'm not really looking right now. I don't really like their next three.
That's fair enough. I can get you. I get where you're coming from, and I do completely agree with you in regards to Trossard. I owned him for a brief spell at last season before he picked up that knock, and I hopefully get him back in the team again at some stage this year. And if he keeps that kind of that bit of form that you're seeing in the last, like, did you?
It's that price point, the 6 million kind of mark. There's not a whole lot around there at the minute. It's a few 6.5s, 0.5 more. Maybe you want to go Foden. Man City scored tonight.
He did. And what's the score in that match? I assume it's over now.
That's finished. Yeah, I'll just double check it here.
But it was 2-1 when we last spoke.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it finished 2-1. They were kind of celebrating. Oh no, it was 3-1. There was a third goal. Oh, it must have been a late goal for City. Jesus got a late goal.
That's going to set the tongues wagging. And it brings us nicely into our next section. This week, folks, we're going to cast an eye upon WILDCARD and all of its glorious, content. Seamus, as I alluded to in the intro, has devilishly suggested he might be wildcarding this week. Now, I must admit that since we recorded, the intro to the start of this podcast, if you're listening to this in the highlighted section, then you won't have a clue what I'm talking about, most likely. But yeah, basically, all before the Marcel injury / Vinagre possibly getting his place back in the Wolves team, Seamus is all set to go for a wildcard. So I'm just kind of setting the story here and letting you know that we're not trying to blue balls you. If he doesn't wildcard, it was not intended. This isn't a clickbait fucking headline, but we are going to do a bit of wildcard talk, and let's get down to the nitty gritty. Seamus, what teams are you targeting if you are wildcarding?
It would be Everton and Wolves. Those would be the two. I would like a piece of that Spurs action. I don't want Doherty at the moment, but I would want maybe Son or Kane. Surprised how central Son played. So those are the kind of teams I think I can imagine. As I said on Sunday when I was texting in the group chat, I was like, gotta play the wild card, gotta pull that wild card. The plan, the whole people are saying stick to the plan. The plan involves getting rid of Mane.
The plan works.
So
the plan
is not working. Okay, I'm at 3 million OR at the moment. I've got a red arrow from even after a poor first game week. It's not going to plan. I have a flag on Saint Maximum. One of my subs, Basuma, got sent off this week. Vinagre wasn't playing. I've got Vardy up against Man City. And I've got Aubameyang, who's about to play Liverpool next. These are not good. Like, my planned transfer was Aubameyang to De Bruyne. But if I do that, I'm going to be playing like Justin against Man City, Vardy against Man City, and Reed for
Yeah.
Fulham. Now, say Maximum may recover. Vinagre, if we'll have to look at what's happening with Marcel. If the comments from Nuno after the game suggest he might miss a game or two, then Vinagre will stay in the team, and I won't. That's one less transfer I have to make. I can sit with Dart, even though I'm not really enjoying having him at the moment. I can sit with him for another week or two. I think I might just make two transfers a week and go for a hit.
Take a hit.
I think it's fine.
Well,
But look, I could like if I do go wildcard. Your original question was what would I do with a
yeah.
wildcard, and yeah, I would have
You're
triple goals.
supposed
I
to
think
be
I'd have.
whetting the appetite and tickling those testicles of people looking for, a bit of wildcard information right now, and you're pissing on me, telling me that all of a sudden I'll just take a hit. Fuck wildcards. Is that what we've got right now, Seamus?
No, if you can imagine, look, the team to have in the next few is Wolves. Let me go through these tantalizing fixtures,
Yeah.
okay? They've got West Ham away, okay, in game week 3. Then they've got Fulham at home, Leeds away, Newcastle at home, Crystal Palace at home. Those are 3 really nice home games: Fulham, Newcastle, and Crystal Palace in the next 5. Away games are West Ham and newly promoted Leeds, who seem to be kind of leaving the back door open, really, to try and be more creative. So I would like to have Jimenez. I'd like to have a defender for those games, be it Sice or,
Tell me.
Actually it would be Sice if I'm wildcarding.
Let me hit you with this right now, and I don't know
Yeah.
if we've talked about it too much yet because my brain is not what it used to be. But Podence, or Podence, as I've heard him pronounced, but it's Podence. He has banged in another assist this evening. I believe he scored last week, Seamus. Am I right? I mix. Yeah, he scored last week. Followed that up with an assist against City. Seems to have nailed down a starting spot for Wolves, especially with Jota's departure to Liverpool. Now, I don't know if I'm being a little premature with that in regards to maybe Neto has that starting spot, but all things considered, my opinion right now is that Podence it's his spot to lose unless a formation change or whatnot. He has looked extremely lively, and he was touted pre-season. Like I can't think of a whole lot, and I'm sure there's loads of people, but I do know, like, at FPL Mariner, I spoke with him casually on Twitter, and he mentioned Podence, and it pricked my ears. A 5.5 midfielder, that could get a starting spot against Wolves. He looks to me more of a sure thing than the likes of, not sure thing, but more of a more significant player to own than Adama Traore at the moment.
Well, Adama Traore is playing the fullback, kind of wing back position. He still looks, anytime I've watched him, he still looked incredibly threatening, even though he doesn't have Doherty or someone behind him, and he's starting further back the pitch. They mentioned in commentary at one stage today that it might actually suit him better to start from a deeper position and build up a head of steam, because if he's builds up a head of steam, there's no stopping him. But whereas if he starts actually higher up the pitch, then, but I don't think that's the case, because I think his acceleration is what gives him the key. I think he actually is better when he gets the other player to slow down and gets him to stop and then go past him. That's my own thoughts on it. But yeah, Podence you think is better value than him? I think 6.5 for a defender kind of playing kind of out of position is not something I want to spend.
Yeah, exactly.
Podence, I should correct you as well. He didn't score last week. He got an assist, so that's 2 assists in 2 weeks. But he does look really, really good. And I watched a bit of the game today. He had 2 or 3 really good chances. One he inexplicably let through his legs when he would have been better off shooting. Another one he chipped he was 1-on-1. He just chipped it over the bar and landed on the roof of the net. I think he's going to improve. I think as soon as I saw Jota was signing for Liverpool, I was like, hang on, that means this guy is nailed. The only reason I didn't have him in my Game Week 1 team is because I thought him, Traore, and Neto would all take minutes off each other. And he looks like he's going to get more minutes now than I thought he might. So I think he could be a really good option to come in for say Maximin. But, could also just, I have the extra money from going from Aubameyang to Bruno or to De Bruyne, that I could go for a second Man City player and get Foden in.
Yeah, so another, as you said, like City now coming into play pretty, it's done 3-1. KDB has scored from the spot. All things being ticked off that, like, in general, we were expecting Jesus maybe kind of starting up front, Sterling playing out wide, KDB doing his usual midfield mastery and taking pens. It's all gone to plan a little bit. So, for anyone that is wildcarding right now, you mentioned Foden there. What's your 3 City players in order? Do not think about it. Gut instinct. Go.
3 players to have. De Bruyne is number
Yep.
1. I think Foden's great value, and then it's got to be between Sterling and Jesus. I think I would go for Jesus if it wasn't for the fact that all the other strikers are in such good form. So Sterling would be the other one to go with. But 3 City midfielders, especially with 2 of them priced at 11.5 or more, might be a bit too much. So I might only go with 2. But if I am wildcarding this week, I'll be packing in Man City players in there as well. That's the reason why I'm considering that. They're back in here now. The pictures aren't great, but they score enough goals that it doesn't really matter. I'm not too concerned about those. Comparing that to United do go on runs and they do go quiet for a few. So yeah, I'm almost rethinking, do I need Bruno? He's on penalties. Yes, I think he's going to be excellent value over the season, but now I'm just getting buyer's remorse here at the moment a bit with him.
Seamus, that leads us perfectly into a question from Tom Mariarty this week, at one Tom Mariarty. He asks, should we go without Man United midfielders for a few weeks until they get back on the right drugs? He's asking for an idiot who sold Son for Bruno, and he's thinking he was being clever. I'm completely with you, Tom. I'm in the same boat.
He's asking on your behalf, is he?
Yeah, well, I'd assume so. I mean, he's asking for an idiot. So there we go. Ticks the boxes as far as I'm concerned for myself. But yeah, should we go without Man United field players, Seamus?
Maybe. I'm just going to pull up their fixtures here again to remind myself. At the time, I remember looking at it, everyone was saying, "Oh, they've got some of the best opening fixtures."
They do have pretty decent. They're starting.
They're good, they're good, but I mean, their home games are tough. Like their next 3 home games are Spurs, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Those are the games where they dominate. They usually struggle a bit away from home.
Yeah,
especially Martial. Martial is a home player. And if their next games are he didn't score against Crystal Palace, and then now they've got to welcome Spurs to Old Trafford. They could win all of these games, but they could be tight. I don't think they're going to be open, high-scoring affairs. I think Ole's kind of showing the board. He's proving a point that he needs investment in the squad, and he's going, look, I'm only like 1 injury away from starting Dan James, and look, he's pretty useless. So yeah, I don't know. Bruno's the guy to have, I think, for penalties. Rashford could be good, but I don't think he's looked the exact same since he suffered that back injury.
You're the man looking at wildcard this week, Seamus. Like, if you were wildcarding right now, you have Fernandes in your team. Does he stay in your team?
I don't think he does necessarily. I think he might come out if I'm wildcarding. Yeah.
Does that mean you consider the likes of Salah again, or are you just dropping money down?
No, I think I'm coming away from Liverpool as well for a couple of games, and then maybe looking to come back to them in a while. I think I might keep Bruno. It depends on the budget. See, what happened with me was I looked at that last night, left it too late, and I was like, I can't make all the transfers I want right now. I knew De Bruyne wasn't going to go up, and I knew Aubameyang wasn't going to go down. I held off on pulling the trigger because I felt like once I pull the wildcard button, there's no cancelling it.
Literally.
So I said, look, I'll let Son go up to 0.1 again. He dropped previously, so he's back up to 9. Still great value. And now I might have looked into a position where if Vinagre is going to start next game, I can just maybe take a -4 and not have to take the hit. But I think if I was wildcarding, I'm going to have De Bruyne in there, and I might have Sterling as well, or Jesus. Sterling plays much better when Jesus is up front, and the amount of times KDB slipped him in tonight, and like that's how Foden got his goal. Sterling pulled it back from him, but there's a lot of times where Sterling was played in. I'll see. City's games still aren't essential, but Man United, I don't think they're as good as everyone thinks.
Yeah, fair enough, and that's coming from United fans. So I mean, I'd agree with that. Just before we wrap up wildcard talk, Seamus, any other teams that you're looking at? I mean, we mentioned Leicester on the full length podcast, and I mean, there's a lot of people that maybe had a bit of Leicester action prior to Man City and Man United coming back, the likes of a Harvey Barnes, Jamie Vardy. Now that Leicester have 1, 2, and 2, and as we mentioned, tough one this week against City, but West Ham and Villa up at home after that. and Leeds, the game after their Arsenal match. Do you would you advise wildcarding managers to jump off of any Leicester assets, or
Leicester.
what are you thinking?
No, I think Justin is still great value. We'll just bench him against Man City this week. Then he's got two lovely home games against West Ham and Villa. I'm tempted to keep Vardy because of those two home fixtures in game weeks 4 and 5. We know he always does well against Arsenal. That's game week 6. Then Leeds game week 7. These are all good games. Man City is the only tough one. I'm thinking of just riding it out. Even if I was on wildcard, I might just keep him. If I didn't, I would have a plan to get him in game week 4. So it depends. You could just, if you wildcard and set it up correctly, you could just use your game week 4 transfer to get him back in. But he's the only one in Leicester I'm really interested at the moment. Harvey Barnes does look good, but I just think I want to get the striker in, the penalty taker. This season in FPL's getting a bit more boring in the sense that you just have to go for the penalty takers. That's where I went wrong game week 1. It was almost written in the stars that Mane would score 2 goals this week. When he got 1, I knew he'd get a second.
Yeah, well,
that's how things always balance out with Salah and Mane over the course of a season. I just gambled in game week 1 that maybe Mane would get the goals then, and I'd sell him in game week 2.
No, I get you.
Went the other way.
Fair enough. I guess that wraps up our wild card section, folks. Just while we're here, if you are listening to this, we ask you to please subscribe, like, and all of the things that you know by now. The buttons below. It really does help. And thanks for listening to us talk shit about wildcards. Moving on to our next section of the episode. It is a return for the FPL Hangover podcast mini league, all in one. Boom, I got it out. And I don't have completely up to date rankings here, but I'm sure Seamus will correct me as I go along. But we didn't mention this last week because we kind of recorded before the leagues were completely updated, and now that we kind of have a bit more info, looking at it here, last week finishing on number 1 was at FPL Crypto. He has followed up his kind of ridiculously good start to the season with another fantastic game week, and that's bringing him up to I think something like a 164 total 86, and he's being pushed by second place, or I think it might be joint first place now, Damien McCallan, Dunfanahy 11. Seamus, you've got the up-to-date facts there in front of you. I know you do. I can see your
I've got the up-to-date one.
Who's
right
number
now.
1?
And Damien McCallan is on 165. You're right. Colburn is 164.
Ooh.
So there's McCallan is a point ahead at this stage, and that comes down to Phil Foden's goal today. That was the big difference, and put him in front. They both scored 82 and 86 points this week, so yeah, they did well.
Yeah, no, it's a tight one there at the moment, but only 2 weeks in, so fucking long haul left. Third place, Anthony Clark dropping down from. I actually know he would have been first, I think, last week. He was Chicken Caesar Salah. He had a great week. 75 points, 182 in total. 162 in total, excuse me. I am literally going blind. It's the cheap vodka, but he's having another blinder, and Rossi's is into number 4 as well this week with an 80-point return.
That's right.
And number 5, Shavendra Ray, We Live on Earth, 616, 78. So that's the top 5. They're already putting us to shame. Seamus, did you know your name had shame in it?
Yes, I have been made aware of that over the course of my many years on this earth.
I feel like it's something I'm just coming to realize.
It now. should still be pointed out. Should still be pointed. It also rhymes with famous, so you can make a famous Seamus kind of rhyme as well.
Or shameful famous Seamus.
That never happens. No. You're stretching now. Yeah. I think you're rein it in. I will say this: looking at our league, almost absolutely everyone went for Aubameyang captain. There's a couple of souls out there that went for Salah. And then you get down to the bottom of the league, you got some mad bastards going for all sorts. But yeah, mostly it is 95% Aubameyang captain this week. So yeah, it seemed to be a majority consensus on that.
Yeah, I was the same. I looked at the mini league, our own personal kind of old school mini league there at the start of the game week, as I always do, and I was Very surprised to see Aubameyang just pretty much, the dominant captain. Not, I mean, just because, as you said, there's a couple of mad bastards in that league that could go with anybody, and to see such a unanimous kind of decision this early in the season, I was like, oh, okay, fair enough.
And there's a few Spurs fans in there too as well. So I was surprised not to see a few more Harry Kane or Son captains. But this comes back to what you did by getting rid of Son this week. I think Spurs showed zero, you form going into this game. Where Son and Kane got those 22 and 24 points from is mystifying. I don't think anyone saw that. I mean, that's that story told by the numbers, the amount of people who sold Sun this week. I think there was like 500,000 people
I'm
sold
with
them.
you.
Crazy numbers.
I
And I wouldn't, when that happened, I was like, I for one moment don't even blame anyone for selling Sun last week.
I take that, Seamus, and I'm grateful for it because I said it. I don't think I made necessarily a bad transfer. I mean, obviously with hindsight, it was obviously the wrong decision because you hold off one more week based on points, but it's something I think I would do 95 times out of 100. Do you know, it was planned. If I hadn't if I hadn't been able to set my team up in game week 1 where I was able to leave 1.5 in the bank, which is what it took to go from Son to Bruno, then I would have just waited the extra game week, which was the plan. It was like, if I can't do it, I pass it on, and in game week 3 I go KDB Bruno right in. But as it turned out, I could afford it, and I think on paper the Crystal Palace match, it seemed ripe for the plucking. I don't. It's hurting me more now that I'm talking about it out loud.
You know what it comes down to. You know what it comes down
What?
to, Jer. Spurs weren't as bad as we thought in game week 1. It just turns out that Everton are actually much better than we thought they were going to be, which was shown in their result in game week 2 as well against West Brom. And also, Southampton are actually way worse at the moment than we thought they were going to be. It's kind of like the start of last season when they, had that hockey in from Leicester, and it really took that to wake them up and actually all like start concentrating, getting on the same page. They've got good players that when they're all firing on all cylinders, they've got a good team. But when they're not, they do have a few players who are not the best. So I think we didn't realize going into it how poor Spurs were or how poor Southampton were. We thought it might have just been a blip. We probably overestimated how poor Spurs were against Everton. It just turns out they were against a good team, and they were good against Everton for a good bit of the first half. It's just that Everton this year are much better. So that's why I'm going back to Drew's question earlier. I think it's not too late to get on Everton.
That's not what you said a while ago.
No, I said if I was wildcarding, I'd definitely have Dominic Calvert-Lewin on my team. I think I would have at least one Everton attacker, maybe two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even Dean. I think I'd rather have Dean in my team now than Doherty, to be honest. But I don't think I would triple up on Everton at the same time. I still think I would like to have two.
No, I'm with you, and I think DCL is the man to go for. But looking forward, Seamus, that's the mini league out of the way. Game weeks.
Do we have the code?
Or yeah, we do have that code. It's right here in front of me. I really need to share this on the social media. The mini league code for anyone listening, and we please it. We ask you to please to join. Why not? The more the merrier. EH4HH7. E for Echo, H for Harlot, 4 for Harry Kane. The other H is for the second hooker, yeah, and 7 is for the movie 7, which I really, really enjoy. So that's EH4HH7. But yeah, that's the mini league out of the way. Before we wrap up, Seamus, what about Game Week 3? I mean, the episode is called Game Week 3 Preview, so I mean, we should at least tell me your hot shot. Like, what player do you think is an essential? I know I said it. I wish I had sound bites.
Not the E word. Not the E word.
Game week 3. I think we're allowed to say essential when we're talking about one game week.
It's hard to say it after one game, but Man City are after beating a good Wolves side tonight. And I had this fixture targeted in game week 3 when I was looking at potential captains. I'm looking at either Man City, that fixture, Man City player, which would be Kevin De Bruyne. They had beat them 5-0 last year, I believe, as well. Spurs against Newcastle, one of their two forwards there, Son or Kane, or you've got Chelsea away to West Brom. Those are the ones that stand out. United away to Brighton as well. They beat them pretty good last year, but United aren't in form. I'm going to say Kevin De Bruyne is the player I'm most likely to captain if I get him in this week. But that's Spurs team. I don't really know what to make of Spurs at the moment. Newcastle look very poor.
Spurs. What's
Uh,
Spurs got to do with
I'm talking about Spurs and Man City, and which of those two I think has
it?
got the
Oh,
better
my
fixture.
apologies.
Pay
I
attention.
well, you were talking about
Yeah, no, I'm
KDB and
kind of
going,
going.
oh, Spurs, man.
Maybe I should be doing this with my hands more. Man City, Spurs. I'm just trying to weighing it
Yeah.
up. But yeah, I think if I go for Man City player like De Bruyne, I think he's probably going to be my captain. I think he's my heavy hitter, but keep an eye on that Spurs one. I wouldn't be surprised if your hot shots coming from that game.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I forgot for a second we were talking about hotshots, and I was like, "But you don't have any Spurs. Why would you be talking about Spurs, you mentalist?" But yeah, no, that's a good shout. And you're right. I'm gonna go with the man who stung me last week. I think Son. He's going to continue to punish me. I feel it in my waters. I think yeah, he's going to score at least 5 this week. He's going to up his performance from last week. He scored 4. It's a definite 5, a hat trick and a half. You know,
A man who never got like a hat trick before for Spurs, at least in the Premier League, suddenly getting his hat trick, not even getting a hat trick, but getting ending up with
double
4.
brace.
Uh, it was kind of inevitable, wasn't it? And like, yeah, he's always good for. He had 6 double-digit returns last season, so you know he can do them. But he usually does them at home, not away.
Yeah, and the only thing I will take a little bit of solace in is that I'd imagine the vast majority of managers who still have Son in their team are looking eagerly at Man City. That was probably their plan. Now, I'm not taking into consideration those who have hit the big wildcard button, but anyone who is thinking, like myself, I will make my 2 transfers in game week 3 and I'll bring in the City United cover. They're going to be second guessing themselves, and at least I can be grateful that I've already jumped off that fucking cliff. But going forwards and looking at our long shots, our puck fadas for game week 3, Seamus, if you were to take a little bit of a punt, if you needed to make a bit of cash, not necessarily on your wild card, but you're just, you're free hitting, you're going mad. Tell me a cheap player that you might consider this week.
Pudence
Yeah.
is the player we discussed him earlier. He's only 5.5. He could come in for me as a replacement for Saint-Maximin. He's only 1.3% owned. He's getting away to West Ham. Don't like West Ham at the moment, and I think he would be the guy I would be looking at.
Yeah.
Cheap, lowly owned. That'd be my puck fodder this week.
Yeah, it's tough to beat that one. I suppose I'm not even gonna try because
Because did I steal
stole
your
my
pick?
and I'm like, I don't even have the gumption to even try look up another one and
I'll give you another
give
one.
me a second pick. Give me your B pick.
Dwight McNeil against Southampton.
Ooh.
Southampton look really poor at the moment. They're at home. We know Burnley are a pretty good team. Yeah, they were beaten by Leicester this week. But I think Dwight McNeil, I think he got an assist in that game. He's always shown good promise. Yeah, he's fast. He puts in good crosses. I just see too much upside to him.
I'm with you, Seamus. I'm with you. Burnley are back in action now. They've got Southampton, Newcastle, West Brom in the next 3. So it's not like, even a 1 week only shout. He's got a couple of nice fixtures following that up that, maybe he is something. And we did talk about Dwight McNeil at the start of the season. We know what he's capable of, especially for the kind of the price range that he's in. That's a great shout, James. I will gladly adorn.
I'm surprised I've gone for him instead of Wood. Wood is also like almost the same price and just as lowly owned. So yeah, maybe I can change that to Wood maybe
Is
instead.
this your pick or my pick?
For you. Can I change it on your behalf?
Yeah, you can. I think I could apply nearly everything I've said about Dwight McNeil to Wood. Now that's quite possibly because what we say is so vague and unspecific that it's
We're like tarot card readers or these kind of guys are, yeah.
You will get in an arrow this week, and then they go off and get a fucking the elusive hyphen or dash or whatever way you want to call it. That's a good bunch of puck fathers, Podence and either Wood or McNeil. We'll call him Chris McNeil meets Dwight Wood. Why not? Dwight Wood sounds like an actor from a load of B movies in the 90s. Just maybe even moved onto porn once everything dried up a little bit.
Yeah, once the script stopped
once the script stopped coming. I think we can wrap up this episode right here, folks. Thanks for listening, Seamus. You have all the nitty gritty shit in front of you.
Yeah, so guys, get liking. If you're watching on YouTube, get liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting. If you do have any questions, fire them into us, please. Look, you can get us on email the old-fashioned way, which is fplhangover@gmail.com. But primarily, if you want to interact with us, get on Twitter. We're at FPL Hangover. I'm at FPL Drunk. You can DM us. You can tag us. Any questions? We'll put out the call each week, usually on a Monday. Sometimes if we're ahead of ourselves, we'll put them out on the Sunday night, but usually it's on a Monday morning. We were a bit slow off the mark today. This week we didn't really do too much chasing for questions this week, but we had enough to discuss anyway. And that's how you can get in touch with us. Do we have an Instagram, Jared? We don't have an Instagram.
Thank fuck we do not have an Instagram, but what we do have is a whole load of balls and some award-winning smiles. There you go, right there. Thank you for everyone for listening, especially if you've made it this far. As Seamus said, YouTube, Twitter, we're all over the place. Enjoy your game week trees, and God bless.